So first, let me say thank you to each and every one of you for the sacrifice that you made on behalf of our members. If we had not locked in like we did, people would have died here.
If that doesn't get you excited for this show, I don't know what will. Hi, I'm Terry Sullivan, the co-founder of Aging Choices and the co-founder of Aging Choices Unfiltered. This week is the first part of a two-part series on Park Springs Life Plan community in Georgia and the innovative steps the community took to prevent the spread of COVID-19. Next week, we'll put the spotlight on the healthcare heroes who voluntarily locked in at Park Springs for 75 days. Really amazing. Back in March, as cases of COVID-19 started to spread across the country like a wildfire, Donna Moore, the chief operating officer at Isaacson Living, knew she had to take decisive action to protect the health of her community members, and that's exactly what she did. I'm honored to welcome Donna Moore to the show today. Donna, thanks for joining us today.
Oh, thank you so much. It's my honor and privilege to be here with you.
Yeah, our honor to have folks like yourself that are so passionate about caring for older adults in our society. So thank you. So Donna, take us back to March as the virus is spreading across the country. Can you give us a little insight into what you were thinking at this time as the COO of a senior living community with high risk folks? Can you tell us what was kind of going on in your mind?
Sure, I'm happy to. So Park Springs is 61 acres of beautiful, as I like to call it. It is independent living, it is assisted living, memory care. We have a health center for long-term care. We have a rehab because we're a life plan community. And we serve over 500 members. And when the virus hit on the West Coast and was coming, we were reading a lot in the news about what was going on in Washington State. We started thinking about how do we protect ourselves in Georgia? And, our mission, Terry, is to love and serve members while taking care of our business. And we had to think about, what does that really mean in this type of pandemic situation? What do we need to do to take care of our members? And early on, we did a lot around infection control and screening guests and visitors because we're a gated community. We doubled down on infection control. And we just kept asking ourselves, is this enough? Is this enough? Is this going to protect our members? We decided as a leadership team, I posed the question to my leaders and I said, what if? And we started dialoguing, and the question turned into a strategy, turned into a radical plan to protect our members. And we decided to lock in. And that was about mid-March.
Amazing. Where did the idea to lock in or to move in this direction come from? Was it a group effort? Where did it derive from?
So, I was doing a lot of reading with CDC, with WHO, the World Health Organization. I was reading every article I could get my hands on, and I was challenging my team to read. And I put an article out of the Washington Post, and, it became very evident to me that the single most important thing we could do would be to limit human traffic.
Yeah.
And that one seed of an idea of how do we limit human traffic became lock-in.
Very interesting.
Because if we can limit human traffic, that is more radical than any other thing that we were doing.
I think that most consumers, and for our listeners, most senior living communities, whether it's a life plan community or assisted living, they generally have infection control protocols in place, but this really brought it to a whole new level, didn't it?
It really did, because, operators, we know how to wear PPE. We know how to manage C. diff. We know how to do all of that. But this was so different than anything else we had ever encountered. And, a little bit of fear is a good thing. What was going on in Washington State really scared me.
Yeah.
Really scary stuff. And, we had to do something different.
Yeah, it's so true. I mean, for all of us, but on your side, even that much more because of who you're caring for and your employees too, right? Your team members there at the community. When you first made the decision to move into a lockdown mode to protect your members from folks coming into the community, of course, ultimately the spread of the virus, what was the initial reaction from the staff and your community team members?
So in mid-March, when we settled on our strategy, when we said, yes, we're going to do this, our executive leadership team and our owner said, I'm behind you 100%. We put out the call to our employees, to our staff, and said, we need volunteers.
Wow.
It's a great strategy, but if you don't implement it, it was a great dream. And we put out the call in mid-March, Terry, and we had 60 employees raise their hand and say, I'll do it.
Okay, I just want to make sure I heard that right. 60?
60.
Wow, that's
60
incredible.
employees said, pick me. I'll do this. And it gives me chill bumps just talking about it.
I know. I was just thinking the same thing. That's a lot of people willing to change their life and the impact on their families in order to protect the members of the community. That says a lot. That says a lot about the culture of your company as well.
It says a lot about our culture. It says a lot about our mission, and that our people believe in our mission. And, I got to be honest with you. The initial ask was 2 to 4 weeks.
Yeah.
And, personal sacrifice for 2 to 4 weeks is still a lot of sacrifice to live on campus and be away from your family. But our employees perceive our members here as family too.
Yeah.
I mean, they're our parents, they're our grandparents. We love them. We know them by first name. They know us. And when you have volunteers like that, you really know that that's our opportunity to live our mission. We live it every day, but this is mission in action.
Yeah, incredible.
And Terry, they volunteered before they even knew. I mean, we asked for volunteers and they didn't say, what's in it for me? Because the ask was volunteer and I'm going to take care of you. And honestly, I didn't know what taking care of them meant at the time.
Yeah.
I figured it out very, very quickly what it meant. But they volunteered because they believe.
It's amazing, absolutely amazing. I don't think any of us in our lifetime thought we would see something like this. First of all, I know it happened 100 years ago, but it's very scary. So the initial reaction from the staff was incredible. You had people coming forward. How did you narrow them down to a group that made sense? Did you look at their roles and what needed to happen, or how did you look at that?
Well, that's exactly what happened. Is we looked at, we had volunteers from food and beverage, from environmental services, from, our nursing staff and our care staff and activities. All of our directors and leaders volunteered, and it seemed to have a natural fit. Is you tend to volunteer where you work.
Yeah.
And we did do some shifting.
Yeah.
But it just happened organically that the team that supports our health center just came together, and
Great.
That's where I want to be. And, our food service served the entire community, so they were on our main campus. But
fantastic. That's absolutely amazing. So when did the actual lockdown start, the date, and then how long did it last? Tell us about that process, because you mentioned you thought it would be shorter. You weren't sure. You weren't even sure what you could tell your staff was going to happen, but tell us a little bit about that and what happened. I'd love to hear more about it.
So we had the call or the ask for volunteers mid-March. We started moving onto campus March 30th, which was a Monday.
Yeah.
And we moved in Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. It took 3 days to move everybody onto campus and to make assignments, room assignments. And, again, it was 2 to 4 weeks. I mean, 4 weeks was the fudge on the back end.
Yeah.
And, we ultimately ended up at 75 volunteers because we had some people that needed to cycle out and they'd come back in and we'd test them. Because at this point, when they were cycling out, we were a safe community. Yeah. And so if they were coming back, we'd test them, we'd quarantine them, and then we'd bring them back into the employee fold and the member fold.
Yeah, it gave you a little time to get some protocol in place, right? Or
right.
You actually already had protocol in place, but to actually COVIDize it, I guess is the best way to say, right? Yeah.
It's become a verb, hasn't it? Yeah. We ended up living on campus 11 weeks.
Wow. That's incredible.
And, there were 2 events where we brought our employees together. Yeah. And we were on our campus is very large, and we had the health center, which is our memory care and our long-term care. We had our independent living, and then we had our assisted living building. And at those 3 locations, 2 times we had to pull our employees together and say, look, it's not time to go.
Yeah.
The numbers aren't going down, and we've got to ask, what can you give? And we were very honest with them and said, if you have to go. If you can stay and give more, please do. And people were not leaving. I mean, we had just a handful of folks that cycled out just because they had health appointments of their own, or they had a family issue that they had to come take care of. And I tell you, I was surprised. I hugged a lot of necks and I thought, well, I'm saying goodbye. I'll see you when it's over. And the next thing I knew, 10 days later, they were back.
Oh my gosh, chills. I just got chills. I mean.
And it's like,
it's kind of great. Yeah. Yeah.
That level of commitment was just very humbling. And Terry, we think of ourselves as a family.
Yeah.
But when you live with people.
Yeah. You really do become a family. You see all the ins and outs. Yeah. I mean, it's a really great reflection of your senior leadership and the leadership team that you have there, that people would step into that. Like you say, they believe in your mission. They believe in the members and caring for the members and taking care of and living the mission, which is really cool. That's great.
It's really cool. It was awesome. It was exhilarating. And I got to tell you, it kept us going. Yeah. We kept each other going, and it kept us going. And it's like, wow, yeah. This is a war we're fighting, and we're winning this particular battle.
Yeah, that's awesome. So where did everybody stay? Like, where did you put everybody?
So on the main campus, they had a little bit more luxury accommodations. They had guest suites, and they had empty homes, and they used our models. And when we ran out
living with the members.
Oh, and
right,
when we ran out of those, we started issuing air mattresses. I was in the health center, which is our separate building.
Yeah.
And I was in a tent on an air mattress, and we issued air mattresses here, and folks just found a place to light, and, they figured it out for themselves. I tried to invite them all into community hall with me, and there was just 2 of us in community hall in tents, but, the morning shift and the night shift, they figured out 4 of us can stay in this room, and we're going to kind of cycle through this room.
Yeah, so there's 2 things when you were just talking about that came to mind. One is you very lightly went over the word tent. So you need to expand on that, number one. And number two is, did you find that the community team members were working harder and more hours just because of the situation? Or, were you concerned about them burning out? I'd love to hear some of your thoughts on that, but you have to tell us about the tent first.
Okay. So as a leader, you can never ask your people, this is old, you know this, you can never ask your people to do something you're not willing to do yourself.
Agreed.
Or else you really can't be a leader. And, I brought my tent, I brought my air mattress, and, that was my home for 11 weeks. And funny story, when I finally did move out, it was a little awkward at home because I didn't have anything over me protecting me. Yeah. It was a little weird to sleep at home, but I love my tent. Yeah. And it was a symbol of, for me, my tent became a symbol of my commitment to the members and to my employees. And, one of my sayings is, you've got to love them to lead them. And boy, do I love them. They are amazing. Yeah. And, you just mentioned the employees, did they get burned out? And, they work 12, 14, 16 hours a day. Yeah. And we were on 12-hour shifts. But, we energized each other by, can I help you with that? What do you need? Yeah. What can we do that's fun? Let's have karaoke night. And we've always loved each other, but now it was our family. It was our brothers and sisters here to work with our members and to serve our members. And, if somebody was down, take a day off. I'm taking your shift. Yeah. Support each other. I became very, very good at making French toast on Sunday mornings for my team, and vacuuming and cleaning and working with members. And, we lived together as a family, because once we had been in for 2 weeks, we knew there was no COVID in our building. And, it was like living with my mom or living with my dad or my grandparents and all my new brothers and sisters. Yeah, that's awesome. That's very, very, very cool. From the perspective of, one of the things that you've mentioned to me when you and I spoke in the past is that, leading and guiding and doing the things that maybe you, anything that you'd ask them to do, you would do. So tell us about when you were thinking about the team and how they moved into the community. I'm trying to round this out in a question that is thoughtful. Is what measures did you put in place to help? It sounds great. I mean, you were making breakfast for them. You were in it with them. What other measures did you take to ensure their safety, to make sure that mentally, physically, emotionally, that they were, okay during this thing? Because there's all that external factors as well, right? The news, the numbers, the CDC, all of that. How did you ensure protection of them? And then, of course, most importantly, why you were doing this for your members? Well, and we practice something called the household model of care. I know you're familiar with it, but the household model of care is the way we design our physical space and the way we staff our physical space. It's like a home, and there's 18 private bedrooms it's an ensuite with a bath and, a living room and a dining room and a kitchen with a personal chef and, very small households that are designed with front and back doors. And I took that exact same philosophy of how we take care of members to take care of our staff. And, it's, let's go outside and get some fresh air in the courtyard. How are you doing? And, just like a family, you become in tune to when someone's down or going through stuff. And I mean, you can't spend 11 weeks together and not realize that someone's going through something or needs a day off. And, we fed their bodies. About 2 weeks in, I had lost 8 pounds and I was feeling pretty proud of myself. Wow. The members, the nurses and the care partners and the administration said, Donna, we want you to experience some of our ethnic cooking, and we're African and Jamaican, and they said, I said, well, what can I do? And they said, here's my list. Go buy these groceries. So I called my food and beverage director and I said, buy these groceries. And they started cooking for the staff.
Oh, that's awesome.
Sharing with the members and sharing their culture and their food, and put every bit of those 8 pounds back on. But it was important to them.
That's awesome. Talk about making a big world small.
Yeah.
Right? Bringing all those cultural things in together. Yeah.
That food gave them a sense of home.
Oh, it's love too.
And, it's just listening. It's, I need a day off. I'm exhausted. You take it. Take it. Give me the phone. I'll pull a shift. It's doing things that feed the soul. It's doing things that are fun, that release stress. And one of the most fun things we did was karaoke with the other sites on campus, and we took turns singing to each other.
That's awesome.
And, it was supposed to be a 2-hour event. It ended up being always longer, and people just released that stress. And, being able to get some sunshine in the courtyard. But we did it with our members, and, they're our family. They came with us. They needed some sunshine too. And, it's just being in tune to, it's listening, it's being in tune, it's feeling your employees and loving them.
Yeah. This one, for family members of the folks that were, say, in your assisted living or memory support or in the healthcare center, I can't imagine, so communicating to the family and letting them know you're doing this. I mean, what has been the feedback from the family on this? It must have been incredible, because as a family member and being through this and going through it with my grandmother and my business co-founder, going through it with her dad and her mom most recently, what's the family feedback? What are you hearing from the families?
So, one of the things that, families hold us to a very, very high standard. We hold ourselves to a very, very high standard. And we knew going into this that we had to find a way to communicate more and more frequently.
Yeah.
And so we had systems in place in each of our independent buildings to have Zoom meetings with families. We Zoomed birthdays. We Zoomed just because I want to talk to my son. We Zoomed. If a member wanted to Zoom with their family or FaceTime with their family or talk to their family, we made it happen. Yeah. And we did the same with our employees. I mean, but our members, it was, you want me to talk into the TV? And it's like, yes, ma'am. Just as soon as I turn it on, you're going to see. And then they didn't want, it was a 45 meeting of love with their family. And the families loved it. And, we also did emails and communiques, and, we still had care plan meetings. And, the families have told us how much they appreciate keeping their loved ones safe.
Yeah.
First and foremost.
Yeah.
But secondly, it was thank you for finding a way to keep us connected.
Yeah.
And that happened where I was in the health center, but it also happened in assisted living and on the main campus. Yeah. And even on the main campus, one of the things that just really touched my heart, our executive director over there, Jeff, he found a way to connect moms that were in the campus in lock-in and independent living with their families. And on Mother's Day, he found every single bench we had on campus, and he put it along the gate.
Yeah.
And so families could come to the gate and visit with mom.
That's awesome.
And, it gives me chill bumps to talk about it, but it was that sensitivity to our members of they're missing their families too. And gosh, it's Mother's Day, and let's find a way to allow mothers to see their families. If not via Zoom, bring them to the gate. And we practiced social distancing, and we had on masks, and moms got to see kids and grandkids, and dads got to see kids and grandkids. But it's just that that servant leadership, that not just the words, but living it and living our mission is how do we make Mother's Day okay for people?
You're mentioning the members and the impact and how you all came together as a community. Are there some other things, other reactions that maybe the members had to the staff locking in and staying there? Can you tell us a little bit about that? I can't imagine that I would imagine that they were really emotionally moved by that, I would assume. So
they were, and they were so loving and kind, cards and cheers and cookies and calls of encouragement and emails and they sent us meals. They held a barbecue for us.
Awesome.
Of course they had to send it into our buildings, but they sent us a barbecue meal. And they, on Mother's Day, they had a golf cart parade for us.
That's awesome.
And, I asked them to go around twice because we were so touched, and they had signs on their golf cart and they were blowing their horns and blowing kisses.
Yeah.
It made us feel so good. It made us feel like they understood that we were doing this for them.
Yeah. Well, there's sacrifice there, right, Donna? So
there is.
Let's talk about that. Let's talk about the employees and the sacrifice that they made, and share a couple stories with our listeners of, their lives and how this impacted their lives, and maybe some sacrifices that they made to help protect the members during this unprecedented, weird thing that we're in, Well, and 11 weeks of living on campus means everybody sacrificed, members and employees, but there are some special stories. Sure.
We had our healthcare administrator, Nadia. She was the maid of honor for her sister's wedding via Zoom. And she and her sister grew up as little girls talking about their weddings and how they were going to stand up for each other. And,
they didn't think it was going to turn out this way. Yeah.
Oh,
yeah.
And, it was just such an emotional day for all of us, and trying to support her. And it was
amazing.
That sacrifice.
Yeah.
We had an employee that bought a new home and had to have her mother be her power of attorney.
Yeah.
At the closing.
Yeah.
And
that's such a big event for someone. Weddings, homes, these are huge events in people's lives,
Huge events.
Yeah.
We had, I'm going to tell on him. Our food and beverage director, Justin, actually has been with us a little over a year, almost a year and a half. And, he came to our community. He came to Park Springs because he had young teenage boys, and he wanted a better quality of life. He had always been in the restaurant business, and that life is brutal. You're there until 1, 2 o'clock at night, and he said, I got to find a better quality of life. And we recruited him away from one of the, I'm not going to say the name, but one of the best known steakhouses in Atlanta, and he has been phenomenal. And the whole reason he came to Park Springs was better quality of life. And then he volunteered to lock in for 11 weeks. And his family, he kept his traditions, and his family would come on Sunday nights and have Sunday night dinner with him.
Oh, that's
across the fence.
Oh, wow.
And he and his wife would try and maintain date night on Thursdays, and she'd pass him a takeout box, and they'd sit there with a bottle of wine and recount their week and have their date night. And
that's awesome. My dad had date night every Friday night growing up. Wasn't the same situation, but they always made time for each other, and it's important for him to do that too. And even in this environment, they made it work, which is so awesome. Incredible.
And it's special people here at Park Springs. These employees are, I'm still processing.
Of course they did.
But I love them. I mean, they are amazing heroes.
Well, you've made some sacrifices yourself too. So how does your family do with it? How did they support you?
So, I have 2 college-age daughters, and we would FaceTime and we would talk and text, and I didn't want to see them. And I didn't want to see them because I knew that would be hard.
Yeah.
And they insisted on Mother's Day. They came to the parking lot of the building that I was in, and they cooked me a steak and made me my favorite Caesar salad. And, we were, a parking lot apart, but they wanted to see me. And I just knew it would be emotionally hard for me, and it was, but it was also good to see them. But
it did fill up your love tank a little bit. They are such special kids, and they understood. And part of the hero base too, and I've reflected on this since I've been out, is it was the employees, it was the members, but it was also all the families. Yeah.
The families that allowed our heroes to come in, and the family said, don't worry about home. You go do what you need to do to take care of your members.
Yeah. It's amazing.
And, dads that said, don't worry, honey, I'll take care of all 6 kids.
Yeah.
And, moms that said, I'll take care of your family and your husband while you're in there. And, it's just the sacrifices all the way around. But we got to do what we believed was the right thing to do.
That's awesome. There's a great feeling behind that.
Oh, absolutely. That our families weren't feeling, put upon.
Yeah. So Donna, can you share some things that your family did to make you feel more connected or to support you during this time?
Well, in addition to FaceTime and texts and phone calls, one of the most special things that my youngest daughter, Megan, did for me was she would audio tape herself singing.
Oh, I've heard it said that people come into our lives for a reason.
She has been singing her entire life, and if she's awake, that child is singing in the house or anywhere that she is. And she would record these a cappella songs for me and just send them to me via text. And at night I would lay in my tent and just listen to her sweet voice. And it made me feel connected to her and to my family. And it was very special. And, she, just an amazing young lady. Both of my daughters are. My other daughter would call me and leave sweet little messages, and it just made me feel good.
That's awesome. It's awesome that you had that support. So that's great.
I am so proud. You guys are amazing. And when I think about what a hero really is, it's not the general. It's not the first lieutenant. It's the people on the front lines, putting it out there every single day. You work 12, 14, 16 hours a day. You are amazing.
Yeah. So as a leader, I've been fortunate in this space for about 13 years, and I've met a lot of people that are very passionate about being in this space and providing services and supporting the aging and have missions like yourself. How did this help you grow as a leader?
Carrie, not only did I grow as a leader, but my team, my direct reports grew as leaders as well. And it was really fulfilling to watch them grow with their teams and to watch them grow in their servant leadership. And, to be able to give them this experience, for them to take this experience. And, you very seldom will get an experience in your career like this. And to watch them grow was very satisfying. But I will tell you, too, that one of the things that I get to mentor and coach them. And boy, did I do my job for 11 weeks, because it was day in and day out, the experiences that they were able to grow through. It was a beautiful thing.
Donna, I respect you and love you. Thank you for teaching me leadership.
I will tell you that one of our takeaways is that all of our new employees need to go through and spend time in either assisted living or long-term care or memory care, they need to take a couple of days so that they fully understand what our mission is, because our mission is to take care of you for life, to love and serve members. And until you feel it, until you experience it, we can talk about it all day, but you don't really get it until you experience it. And I think that was one of our major lessons learned through this experience.
Yeah, I haven't spent a lot of time in a healthcare community, skilled nursing, or even assisted living, but I told you about that experience with my mom,
right?
Where she was the PTA and she would literally get into someone in their bed next to them and touch them. And, just that small thing made a lasting impact on me, that people need to be touched, not just in a medical way, but it's really important. So, yeah, I think that's amazing. So if you could say anything to your team, if they were listening to this podcast, what would you say to them if you were speaking directly to them?
How proud I am of you.
Yeah.
How you have sacrificed willingly, that you gave more than you were asked for, that you weren't afraid to engage in the battle, that you grew and you were stronger than you thought you knew.
Yeah.
How much I love you. And, leaders don't talk about love, but I'm not ashamed of it. I love each and every one of you. There is some seed of greatness in all of you that you stepped up to this. And I don't want to work anywhere else. I don't want to work anywhere else. I want to be with this team of heroes, because that's what they are.
That's awesome. Well, I'm going to try not to cry right now. So,
Me too. Me too.
So clearly, what you've done here with the model, with the lockdown, with really focusing down on your members and protecting them during COVID-19, this was an effective way. Can you talk about, and I'll ask the question just directly, did you find that this was effective in protecting your teams, your members? Talk to the world about that. Was it effective for you to do this? I know it was sacrifice, but tell us about the outcome.
So in quantitative terms, we had 0 cases of COVID-19 in memory care, in assisted living, in our health center and long-term care, 0 cases.
Amazing.
And, that is amazing.
Yeah.
In our independent living, we had 2 individuals that came back from hospital into our rehab that were our members that had to go out to hospital, came back into rehab. Our protocol was very, very stringent. We isolated them. We tested them. They unfortunately got COVID in the hospital.
Yeah.
And we took care of them.
Yeah.
And recovered. They've fully recovered. We did have a member in independent living that was on hospice care, and our policy is compassionate in that we will allow, during the lock-in, we would allow any and all members to come into the member's home if they are actively dying, and she was, and it turned out that she contracted COVID as well, but it had no bearing on her death.
Yeah.
So, when you look at our numbers,
yeah,
we think we were successful in fighting the battle. We think it worked.
Anyways.
We think it worked. But, Terry, you can't sustain that.
Right.
We can't move on campus forever. So phase 2 is about personal responsibility and everything we learned in phase 1 to be successful in phase 2. And, that's where we are now. And we are constantly looking and constantly evaluating and new ideas and, what can we do differently or what can we do better? And believe me, we're on it, but we're constantly challenging ourselves to do better, to do better, to do better, to continue to fight, this war.
Yeah, and as a collective, I'll use industry. Industry sounds like a cold term, but as a collective industry of supporting elder care and elders, I hope that these stories that you all come together and share these successes and stories, and it can be spread, because it's a pretty incredible story.
I knew that something was happening that I didn't expect. I didn't expect the love and the camaraderie and the sisterhood and the kinship that we all feel for each other.
So thank you again, Donna. This has been amazing. Really.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to tell my hero story and to talk a little bit about Park Springs. Thank you for this venue and this opportunity. Thank you for what you do.
Thank you. I appreciate that. Thank you. We're working really hard to try to bring more transparency on and education to consumers. It's really important for them, and I think there's a lot of focus on our in-industry kitschy language and lots of things that happen, but at the end of the day, most consumers don't know what they don't know until they're in it, and then it's too late, right? Not a lot of people think about it or plan for it. So we're hoping to bring more of that. We're just be more thoughtful about it. Instead of
and you are. I mean, that's your purpose, and we thank you for that. From all the adult daughters and sons out there in the world, thank you for that.
Next week, we put the spotlight on the frontline workers, the true heroes at Park Springs. We'll share the stories of their sacrifice, their commitment and dedication to their community and the members that they serve.
I thank, Andy and Kevin and the leadership team for giving me the opportunity to serve the members, because I have been able to serve them, learn them, love them. They're my family.
You won't want to miss the second part of a 2-part series on Park Springs. Thank you for watching, and I hope you can join us.